There are times I've got, hell, I've had chills on my back. And how the hell did that happen? How did I just walk away from that? Somebody your distance from me trying to blow my head off and missed with 6 bullets. How the did that happen? You didn't get a second chance, that's for sure.
Hello and welcome to Extraordinary Lives, the podcast from LADbible. In this episode, we're joined by Billy Billingham. Great to have you here, Billy.
Ben, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Could you give us a brief introduction to who you are and what you're known for?
Yeah, certainly. I'm Mark Billy Billingham, better known as Billy. Grew up in the West Midlands in the early 60s, 70s. Went a little bit rogue as a kid, getting in a lot of trouble. Found sort of direction with the military. I joined the military at the age of 17 and a half in 1983. Joined the parachute regiment, where served in Belize initially, and then all over the world with the parachute regiment for 9 years, including 3 operational tours, including Northern Ireland. From there, decided I want to go to the best place I could, and that was the SAS. I joined the SAS in 92, stepped out, and the first job I got in security was head of security for a number of A-list celebrities, including Angelina, Jolie, Brad Pitt. Going from one side of the camera, guarding people, to go on the other side of the camera and getting involved in TV. And up to date now, I'm working on a TV show called SAS Who Dares Wins and Special Forces Toughest Test, which is the same version but in America.
I mean, that felt like it was about 6 lives you described there, Billy. So
We ain't started yet.
I'm excited about getting into them. But to go back to the beginning, you said there you went a bit rogue as a kid. So can we start there? What was childhood like for you?
Right, so I was born in the West Midlands in a place called Walsall, into an absolute great family, actually. Mum and dad, 2 brothers, older brother, older sister, younger brother, younger sister. I was the middle child. My brothers and sisters were great. I just went rogue. I knew right from the early age how to manipulate and get away with things. And I played the numbers game, thinking, you know, do 10 bad things. If I can get caught by just 1, then I've done all right. And I really was. I was that kid that, you know, when your mum stands there and said, oh, he got in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
Well, I was the wrong crowd, and I knew it. I knew what I was doing. In the area where I lived, it was all gangs. It was a poor area, you know, we came from a poor family. Not to say that's an excuse, but so I started getting into gangs. And even at that young age then, I had my own little gang, and I used to steal Trilby hats.
Right.
And I don't know why I did this. It was crazy.
To sell them or just...
No, I just collected them because I thought it was cool. I wanted to try and make a name for myself, because as I looked at all the kids around my area, you know, some they'd been in Borstal and all that sort of stuff, and I thought that was the right way to go, and have a name, be the tough guy. And of course, I was totally wrong. So even from the age of 9, I just started stealing these hats. And me and my 2 mates, my mates would run in front of the victim, normally a 70-year-old man, distract him. I'd run up his back, grab the hat and run off. And then one particular day, this guy caught me. This old man chased me and caught me. And I just went into a panic. I just went straight into a boxing stance. And my 2 mates had legged it, left me. And the old guy just stood up and says, listen, he said, there's something about you. Keep the hat, come to my boxing gym. And this is very, very true. You got to, honestly, it's crazy. So I threw the hat at him, grabs the hat, and he lets me go. But before I went, he says, look, the boxing gym is here. It was at a pub downtown in Walsall called Rocksteady Eddie's, or the Digbiff at the time. So I knew exactly where it was. It's where my dad drank.
Right.
But something told me to go there. Now, this happened on a Sunday afternoon in February. It's now Monday. I'm 9 years old. I'm going to meet an old man that was stolen from at the bottom of a pub, at the back of a pub, who supposedly was going to teach me boxing. But I went, and it was one of the best things I ever did. He became probably the second most influential man in my life. So I went behind this pub. I met this old guy, and absolutely bricking it, thinking, what am I doing? You know, 9 years old. Imagine you letting your kid do that.
Yeah.
7 o'clock at night, pitch black in February. So I'll go behind the pub, through the snow, knock the door. The old guy calls me in. So I'll go inside. And I'm myself, but I follow him. And as I go in, I'm looking around and I see all the little kids around about my age, all in there doing boxing training. So I've kind of calmed down, and I'm going to jump forward a little bit here, but the old man basically took me to one side. He says, listen, I want to teach you about boxing. So I said, okay. He said, boxing is not a sport of brutality. It's a poor man's game of chess. And I never forget these words, and this is very true, right? And he said, look, it's about anticipating what's in front of you, having respect for what's in front of you. To win a fight, you will win it with your feet and your mind, not your hands. And he says, it's when the chips are down, it's about going that little bit further. Don't give up. Now, those words, I swear to you, right? I'm going to jump forward 20 years. I joined the SAS. When I joined the SAS, in the middle of the camp is a clock tower. One of the sayings in the SAS is, you have to beat the clock, which means if you don't beat the clock, your name goes on that tower, it means you're dead, killed in action, like a lot of my friends are, unfortunately. Now, at the bottom of the clock, the last line is always a little further. Just like the old man had said to me when I was 9 years old. And I've kept that as my mantra all through my life.
Amazing. Do you think he knew that about the SAS?
No, he had no idea, mate. I mean, I didn't even know. I was 9 years old. It was just a saying and a phrase. And it was really, like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up when I read it. I went, wow.
Yeah.
Because I always remember those words from 9 years old, you know. And from that age, I started to go really rogue. I was getting in a lot of trouble, thinking I was a tough guy. I was getting brought home every other weekend by the police for whatever it was. At the age of 11, I had a criminal record.
So the boxing gym didn't necessarily set you on the straight and narrow.
It kind of put me on the straight tracks for a while.
Yeah.
It also taught me how to fight, which made it worse, if I'm honest. But it gave me respect and it gave me discipline. And I was training on a Monday and a Wednesday, I think it was. So at least on those nights, I was staying out of trouble.
Yeah.
But then getting in trouble the rest of the time. You know, I knew what I was doing. Yeah. You know, when people say, "Oh, he's just a child, doesn't know what he's doing," I knew what I was doing.
But what did you want? Why were you doing?
I was looking for status.
Right.
I was looking to be like the hard guy in the town. You know, thinking that was it. And then at the age of 11, like I said, I got a criminal record for ABH, GBH, and whatever else that was. And then at the age of 13. And in between this, I joined the cadets. Mm. This is my first insight to anything to do with military. And I loved it. I loved the way I was being treated, the discipline of it. You know, if you did something wrong, like in the old-fashioned, you got a clip around the ear and put straight, and I liked it. Right. I enjoyed it. But what I also enjoyed was the fact that I was being taught how to read a map. Made sense to me. How to do first aid, save someone's life. Again, it all made sense to me. All these things that I was learning, you know, made sense. While I was in school, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, learning, it made no sense to me. And I was still going a bit rogue. And at the age of 13, I decided to glue the maths teacher, Mr. Lynch, to the chair. So I put glue on it, thinking I was big. And of course, I got thrown out of school and expelled from school.
At 13?
At 13, yeah.
God.
And like I say, my dad was a wonderful, wonderful man, but he worked 12-hour shifts. He couldn't really control me. And when he came in after doing 12-hour shifts, Mum went out doing 12 hours. So it's all difficult. And anyway, one who's a parent anyway, you know, it is difficult to control your own kids. You can, your kids can wrap around your fingers. That's what I was like. And so I got expelled from school. I carried on doing the cadets. I carried on doing boxing. I was getting in and out of trouble. But I knew I wanted to join the military. I just knew it. That's where I have to go. But now I knew I couldn't join until I was 16 because I had a criminal record. It finished at 16. I thought that'll be great. I'll keep my nose clean as best I can. And I was still getting in trouble, but I was getting clever at it. I weren't getting caught as much. Then at the age of 15, things went badly wrong. I ended up in a fight and with two guys, and I got stabbed. I got stabbed in the back.
Jesus. At 15?
At 15,
How old were they?
About 17, 18, I think.
It's quite, for that age, that's quite a severe...
Yeah. But like I say, this is the world I was in.
Yeah.
You know, it was the time of the skinheads and all this stuff. And although it had nothing to do with that music thing, it was just a fight. I ended up in a fight and I got stabbed.
So what happened? Like, where did that fight come from?
It was just some falling out over, I can't remember why, we had some falling out over some gang issues or something. And I ended up on the embankment, railway embankment at the back of my house, fighting with they were brothers, fighting with these two guys. And while I'm fighting with one, it was I was pushing him down the bank. The other brother came behind me and I thought he hit me with a brick in the back, and then lost all my wind and went lightheaded, fell to the ground. They sort of legged it and I ended up feeling all the blood and realised I'd been stabbed.
God.
And I crawled back to my house and I'll never forget it. You know that when you've been kicked in the nuts and you get that can't breathe feeling? It was like that pain. And I'm crawling back to the house. And as I'm crawling, I can feel the blood all running down my back and down the back of my legs and all on my hands, not knowing how bad I was. And I crawled in through the fence to my house. And I remember crawling through the back door. I can see it right now. Crawl through the back door, and my mum was like mopping the floor, and she turned around and just screamed. Obviously, you could see I was covered in blood. But at that stage, I was going through the door. It felt nice. I was like I was floating. Basically, I was bleeding to death.
Yeah.
The pain had gone, but I can remember seeing my mum. And then the next thing, I'd collapsed. She covered him, got police, got the ambulance, and off I went to hospital. And I was lucky, very lucky, I recovered. But I remember lying in hospital saying to myself, if I get through this, I'm staying out of trouble. I am doing everything I can to get into the military. And that's what I did. I stayed out of trouble. What I didn't do, what I should have done, is gone back to school. I didn't. I ended up getting a job in a factory, in an electroplating factory. Totally illegal, 15 years old. And I worked on the night shift, 12-hour shifts, earning £80 cash in hand. And electroplating, for anybody that doesn't know what that is where you take like rusty old metal and stuff and you put it through a process of caustic soda, sulfuric acid, and then into zinc or chrome, and it comes out all nice and shiny. So I started working in that. And then on the night shift, there was only 2 of us on, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I had an accident. Basically, the older guy, the adult, who was working the crane that picks up all the work and puts it in these vats of acid and stuff, went to the toilet, and I thought, like I could do that. So I jump on the crane, break it, and panic a little bit and think, shit, before he gets back from the toilet, I need to fucking fix this. So I jump up on top of the caustic soda right next to the sulfuric acid, and I slip. And as I slip, I went in just below my knees, which for this day, I don't know how the hell I didn't go in, because these vats are 6 foot. I shouldn't even be here. I should have dissolved. I bounced with agony backwards, and as I came out and sort of landed on the floor, the guy who I was working with came running back, saw what had happened, grabbed me, ran me to the tap, pulled my coveralls off, ripped my Wellingtons off, turned the tap on, and all the water ran down my legs, and I can watching it, and it just went in the layers of skin, and the skin just dropped off. And it was like just blood and bits, and it was stinking, it was painful as And I thought, I'm going to lose my legs. And in the panic, he grabs me, runs me to his personal car, throws me in the back, and heads towards the hospital. Can't wait for an ambulance. But on the way to the hospital, I was lying on his backseat like a cricket, rubbing my legs together, absolutely in agony, And all I could think about was, fucking hell, how painful this is, and I'm going to lose my legs. And as I pulled into the hospital, I remember, I can see it right now, accident and emergency, I'm looking at it, and the pain went from my legs into my heart and my head, and I thought, I've just up my whole life. Because I'm now I'm 15 and a half, 16, I'm just about to join the military. And I've kept myself clean-ish, and now I've got this injury, and I thought, that's ruined my whole life. I'm never going to go into the military now because of these injuries. The injuries were quite bad, and it took nearly a year and a half to get them fixed. So I didn't get into the military. So while this was happening, every 2 weeks I had to go across to Wolverhampton Careers office to the medical, get them checked, checking my weight, checking all these things before they'd allow me to join the military. So that's what I did, and eventually I ended up joining the parachute regiment.
Well, what's interesting there is, like, it's amazing that you thought you were about to lose your legs.
Yeah.
And the first thing you were thinking was, I'm not going to be able to join the military. Like, where was this passion? Do you come from a military family? Like, where was the passion for joining the military? Why was it so strong at such a young age?
I'll be very honest with you, the passion was staying alive.
Right.
I knew, because of the way I was living, what I was doing, I'd have ended up getting killed. I look back, I've been back to the area where most of my friends are either in jail for life or dead.
Yeah.
And I was going that way. I never got into drugs, but I got into, I was going totally rogue. And I knew the military was my saving grace. I had to get into the military.
And am I right in thinking that you actually made a decision? You got quite good at boxing, didn't you? Did you not have to make a decision between military and boxing?
Yeah, I did. I was boxing really from the age of 9 from that old guy. And then at the age of 11, he handed me over to a proper club. And I'll never forget, that was like a real horrible moment for me. I felt like the bloke that I respected has put me in the right direction to a degree, was dumping me. But actually he wasn't. He was putting me into, because at the age of 11, you can box competition.
Yeah.
So I then went to a proper boxing club, and actually it was one of the best things I did. The boxing club was fantastic. So I stayed with them, and, I was boxing pretty well. And I was on the verge of should I stay with the Midlands and go professional boxing, or do I join the military? But my heart was in the military. So I think the military side of it, all as passionate as I was to be in it, I don't think my dad wanted me to be in it. He wanted me out the Midlands. He wanted me to do something, but it weren't until the night before I joined the army that he really let his thoughts out. And I didn't realise till later on why he did what he did. and basically it was to give me a kick up the arse. My dad wasn't one of these cuddly, lovey dads. He was a 6-foot bruiser, but a great ring of steel around our family. And he almost did everything to put me off it. Even to the point of saying, what happens if you go to Northern Ireland? And I went, I want to go to Northern Ireland. Back in the day, that's when it was pretty much a hotbed. UK and on Ireland, you know. People were getting blown up and killed all over the place. And of course, as a soldier, you want to make a difference, try and stop that and be, you know, see how you react to war. And he says, that's great. What if you die? And, you know, I'm looking at my mum and dad and they're just staring at me and going, well, I guess you bury me, Dad, don't you? And I went, yeah. Me and your mum, we bury you. So you can imagine how I went to bed that night thinking, what the f***? I thought he was going to be proud of me of leaving the Midlands, gone away from the lifestyle and the trouble I'd caused for the family and do this. And I went to bed thinking, what the hell is going on? And I actually put it down to, well, I know what it was. I didn't find out till after he died, unfortunately. But it was to put that rocket up my arse of, he never really did the emotional thing with me, the lovey, cuddly, lovey sort of stuff. And he wanted to try that. Everything he tried on me, you know, giving me a slap, disciplining me, never stopped me doing what I wanted to do and getting into trouble. He tried this to say, when the chips were down, I was probably going to throw my hand in and come out. It was that in the back of my mind to prove my dad wrong and stay there, and that's what it was.
So so you get the parachute regiment, you said, was the first place you went. Now, obviously, to a young person that's about to join the military, I think that what a lot of people would think was the most important thing is being tough. And you must have been quite tough at that point because you've been boxing since you were 9. You'd had this incident with your legs that you'd sort of pushed through, recovered, not given up. Once you got in there, did you see yourself as quite a tough guy at that point? Were you thinking, right, I'll get in here and I'll be able to smash this?
Tell you what, man, that's a great question. No, I didn't. I think at that time I realised, bear in mind, I'd never really been out of Walsall. I was a tough kid around Walsall. We used to have the skinheads from Birmingham come over, Wolverhampton, Coventry, you know, and it got gnarly, got nasty, you know, getting in these scraps. But I thought, okay, this is all right, this is what it is. Then when I joined the parachute regiment at the age of 17, I'll never forget it, day one, standing on the square of 70 people. And looking down the line, I'm still 17. I was skinny as hell. I think I weighed about 8.5, 9 stone because I've been boxing for years. And as I looked down the line, they all seemed bigger and older than me. You know, all the big blokes, hairy chests, tattoos, moustaches, Scotsmen, Welshmen, people I'd never really met before. And I remember thinking to myself, what the f*** have I done? I have not got a clue. I ain't going to make this.
Did you feel like a kid among adults?
Yeah. I tell you what, I felt like a very small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, okay.
And then stood in front of me was one of the most respectful people I've ever met, was a corporal, my instructor, a Scouser, Scousman G, I'll call him. He had a fresh scar right across his face. He'd been shot in the face in the Falklands. And I never forget him from his opening moments of speaking to us, just thinking, wow, that's who I want to be. Right. Respect, that man. You know, even I was proud. I didn't even know him at this stage. I'm proud of who he is, what he's done, because we knew what he'd done. And I just thought, that's who I want to be. And I looked at these people again and thought, unless they throw me out, I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to give it everything I've got to get through this. And I had no confidence. You know, I was the skinniest, the youngest, the gobbiest for a short while, not for long, I'll tell you that. And but as the days and the weeks went by, the lines got a bit smaller and smaller, and the big guys were all falling out, and I was starting to grow in confidence.
So this is the selection process.
Yeah.
For anyone that's listening that doesn't know, can you clarify what the parachute regiment does?
Yeah, the parachute regiment are the infantry. It's the airborne division or battalions of the infantry. It's probably, in fact, it is. It's without a shadow of a doubt the best soldiers in the British military, other than probably the SAS. And I wouldn't say the SAS are better. We're just parallel to them and we work at a different level. It's a very, very tough process. And as I said, 70 of us started that process, only 7 of us finished.
God,
that's the
really?
That's the numbers you're looking at.
Over how long?
6 months. It's a 6-month course, but there's a part on it called P Company.
Yeah.
Just like the Marines have their 30-miler there. That's their thing. This is 3 days of 10 tests, three tests on each day except for the last day, which is 4 tests. And it's like a 10-miler with 50 or 60 pound in 1 hour and 10 or whatever it is. I can't remember. Don't quote me on the numbers. Stretcher race, log race. It's absolutely horrendous. And I mean, horrific. And I remember when I did it, I thought, hell, I'm never doing this again. And on the log, when you do the log race, which is normally if you fall off the log, that's it, you already automatically fail.
Right. You fall off it, as in if you drop the log.
Yeah, the log is a telegraph pole, basically.
Right.
And there's 6 of you, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, 2 in the middle. And your hands are looped into it with a rough rope.
Right.
And that weighs a ton when you're running with it. And it's about a 2-mile race. And by the time we finished that, I think there was only 3 of us left on the log. And I was at the front, and my arm was like Stretch Armstrong by the time I finished.
God.
I remember dragging it over the line thinking, oh, that was horrendous. Could hardly breathe.
But when you're going through that selection process as a young guy and you're seeing these bigger guys from all over the country dropping out, was that making you think, God, this is really hard? Or was that making you think, okay, I'm still here, they're gone now?
It was a reality check of this is hard, this is horrendous. But growing in confidence, believing in myself, thinking, I can do this. And when I did do it and pass P Company, although there's 2 more phases to it, after P Company. P Company is the hardest thing without a shadow of doubt, physically anyway. And it's, people get to the end, but it doesn't mean you've passed. You have to put in enough performance, given 100%, to get you have to get at least 8 points out of 10 on every event. Now, and they don't tell you if you've done good enough or not, so it's always playing in your mind. Just the fact that you're there at the end doesn't mean you're going to pass. And I'll never forget we ended up in the auditorium, and I think there was about 30 of us started that by that stage. Most of them were already gone. 40 people had already gone. 30 of us that started it. And you go into this auditorium and all the staff are at the front and you just get your name called out. And it's like, Smith. It's total silence. Smith stands up and goes, staff, failed. Staff sits down and you're all looking at each other going,
and then Smith's just gone then. Done.
Yeah, and he just thought, he was better than me in your head. And I'll never forget it. Then my name gets called out, stand up, and I hear pass. And it was like I'd won the lottery. Bearing in mind in school, all I ever heard was maths, Billingham, fail. English, Billingham, fail. And then I just heard this pass, and it meant more to me than anything in the world. The fact that I just passed, and I think I grew about 6 foot after that. And I came out there thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. So yeah, they've failed. What happens to them is they get back squatted. They go back and do the whole thing again, or they get out. Most of them get out because that's enough. But there are some that go back and do it again.
Okay.
And then when we got to the end, you do that. Then you go to Wales. You do these military exercises, which is pretty horrific. Again, that was in like freezing cold winter in the snow and the ice for 2.5 weeks. Then you do your parachuting down at Bryce Norton, which is kind of classed as a holiday. But if getting thrown out of an aircraft, fully serviceable aircraft with a parachute on your back, is a holiday, then that's what it is. But for me, that was the first time I'd even been on a plane.
Right. So it was all new experiences.
Yeah.
And were you excited by them? Were you like going, this is...
I was excited, but I was also not intimidated. I was frightened by it, because people get killed parachuting. And I've never even been on a plane. Like I say, the first day I get on a plane, I'm on this plane, the C-130, and I'm looking at it and thinking, they ain't what I'd expected.
Yeah.
There's wires everywhere. It's raw. You take off, and then all of a sudden, you got this thing on your back that weighs almost the same weight as you. You get pulled to the door, stick your head out, and you're like, the next thing, out, and you're like, out you go. You're like, out, falling through the sky. Wonder what the hell? And then you're like, as soon as you feel that pull on your shoulders after 4 seconds, poof, and it's open, you're like, whoa, then you're a king again.
Am I right in thinking that you ended up becoming the champion cadet?
I did, the champion recruit. Like I said, there was 7 of us finished at the end, and I was actually the champion recruit.
And what does that mean? Does that mean just the top?
It means the best of all, of the whole platoon.
That's amazing.
Well, it was amazing, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else, but they just said I was. I did the results. They were all good, great people, but for me, what an achievement.
Yeah.
Standing there looking at my mum and dad and my old man, who actually didn't think I'd ever make it. And I didn't tell them I was a champion recruit.
Oh, really? And did they announce it in front of them?
My mum absolutely freaking out. She's delighted. My dad's like, okay, well done. Where's the bar?
And then if we jump ahead a little bit, so you've passed now. Yeah. You've got through, you're selected. Yeah. What was your first tour, or what was the first experience of being sent somewhere like?
Wow. Right, this is true as well, right? Back in the day then, when I was in depot, you used to have these payphones. You'd go into the payphone and go... So I then pass out. Pass out means you've finished your training. I'm being told I'm going to 3rd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. There's 3 battalions, 1 para, 2 para, 3 para. And my troops platoon sergeant, who was from 3 para, he goes, great. He goes, you're going to Central America. So I hear America. I'm going to America. Belize. I didn't even think about Belize. I just heard Central America. So this is true. I run to the phone, ring my mum up, and I go, hey, Mum, I'm going to 3 para. She goes, she didn't know what that meant. So I was great. I goes, well, where's that? Where are you going? I went, America. Chicks, sand, beer, da. She's like, wow, where about America? I went, Belize? She's like, you clown. Belize is in the jungle. I went, oh. She goes, if you'd have done your geography in school, you'd know where you were going. So I can go to America. But so that's where I ended up. I ended up in the jungle of Belize. And
that must have been a shock.
Oh, was it ever, mate? I'd never been in the jungle, of course. You know, I mean, all I ever knew about the jungle is what you see on Tarzan.
Yeah. So
I thought, right, okay, here we go. Yeah, and you go up to the battalion. This is quite a sad time in my life, actually, because I went up to the battalion, and obviously, you went on leave for about 2 weeks, then you came back, and the battalion was already out there. So you go on to what they call rear party, where 3 para normally live in Aldershot. There's just a skeleton crew just keeping security of the camp. So we ended up doing that for a week, and I met a wonderful, wonderful guy there called Benny. And he was the only real adult that spoke to me or us really nicely, you know, because you go through training, you have to be shouted at, screamed at, and pushed to the limit. And, you know, you don't really get a rapport relationship with these people. And then he was the first person we had, and he was a great guy. He'd been to the Falklands, he'd done all this. And he was running the rear part, and he sat us down and goes, right, lads, listen to me. When you go up to the battalion, this is what you need to do. Keep your mouth shut. You ain't big guys. He says, listen and learn. Follow the people that are quiet, not the people that are screaming and shouting, because they've got nothing to teach you. And he was absolutely 100% right. And he actually said to us, he says, I'll see you for the last couple of months of the tour anyway, because I'm coming out, finish the tour off, make some money, and I'm getting married, and then I'm out the army. Now, bear in mind, this is 1983, beginning of 84. The Falklands has only really just finished. So everybody in the battalion, really, except for a couple of platoons before me, had been to the Falklands. So these were no-nonsense people. They'd all been to war. So I get out and join the battalion. And, wow, it was like, I've never been away from home. I'm now the gobby newest recruit. Not gobby anymore, but the newest recruit. No one's really talking to me. And it was a real tough time. And then being put in the jungle, which was, I had romantic fantasies about what the jungle might be like. It was horrendous. Horrendous. You know, as a new guy, they give you the biggest gun, the anti-tank weapon, which you're never going to use in the jungle anyway, but they make you carry it. You got all this weight, all this water, all this kit, and you're at the back of the patrol and just following, just trying to listen and learn. And the first couple of patrols out there, I was absolutely petrified. I remember day one, getting off the helicopter. We'd only gone about 20 metres into the trees, put our burgers and wait for the helicopter to go, let everything settle, then you start moving tactically. I just put my hand in the side of my burger, and this tarantula runs up my hand. This is like on day one, hour one of being in the jungle.
God.
This big beastie thing's running, and it's sat on the back of my shoulder and neck, and I'm like froze to death thinking, so I'll just shoot myself here. And the lads are just taking the piss and laughing at me, like, you know, I'm like, what the f***, somebody take the off. And eventually some hard as nails bloke goes and sweeps it off with half my head, and off you go again. And, you know, this was my introduction to the jungle. I'm like, what the f***?
And at that point, are you like, just to be a bit blunt about it, are you not scared of being killed as well?
Yeah, you are. You're on, at the time, I mean, this is the first time I've really carried live rounds. Yeah. With everybody else. And the reason we were doing that, in 1984, there was still a skirmish going on across the border of Guatemala and Belize itself. So we were border patrolling. And the reason they were doing that mainly was because intimidation of the local populace, to scare them out to either loot or steal or grow and steal poppy plants and drugs. Yeah. And also illegal logging. So it was real. Now, there was a couple of skirmishes. I personally wasn't involved in any where there were shootouts and a couple of people did get killed, you know, while we're out there. And it was dangerous. So it was all this new world to me. Grown men, been to war, carrying live rounds, and now intimidated by the jungle, taking a while to fit into this group of people, which is probably rightly so, you know. So, yeah, it was absolutely petrifying. And the lesson the guy Benny told me right at the start was, you know, you get some people want to gob off and shout, and you think, oh, he's a tough guy, I'll listen to him. And then you find out later on, absolute idiot, probably did nothing. And the quieter guys within the group who I sort of gravitated towards were the right ones who'd done it, been there and taught me, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And so the reason I mentioned Benny was because, bear in mind, I'm 17, I've seen people or been around people that had been killed growing up, but not to this extent. And then I remember one day was in we came out of the jungle, we were at the base camp, and all the alarms went off. And normally when the alarms go off on the camp, there's a big problem. So I'm down by the rugby pitch, and the helicopter comes in. The alarms have gone off, all the medical teams are stood to, and I think, what the f*** is going on here? And the helicopter comes in and lands, and they bring a body off. And it was Benny. And I was like, and I think I grew up again that day. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is real.
And he was going to get married.
He was the one who was finishing off and getting married, God bless him.
Oh,
and so, it was an old baptism of fire, big learning curve.
Did it not give you were you not like, maybe this is too much for me?
No, it just made me feel like, I'm here for the right reasons. Nothing ever made me feel like I wanted to go. Even at the hardest of times, they were going to throw me out. I ain't going nowhere, so I need this.
Where does that come from? Because a lot of the people that we meet who would have similar experiences to you, or the sort of like military that we meet, the other people would have had no choice. But people like yourself are willing to volunteer to do that. Where do you think that, like, what is that mindset?
It's just the want to do it and feeling, I had a number of things whizzing through my head. One, I want to make a difference. One, I want to change my whole lifestyle. Instead of being known as this idiot, this little scumbag that's causing trouble, I want to be respected. So that was always there. I did love what I was doing. I loved the challenges. I loved the fear of the unknown. I did. The fact seeing people die and think, that could be me. I kind of, half my head says, that could be me. The other half says, no, it's not me. It's not going to be me. And I always believed that. And since then, I've been in some horrendous situations where, to this day, I still don't know how I've walked out of it. So I felt it was the right reason for everything inside me said, I need to be it. And I was enjoying it. The hardships, I enjoyed it. The hardships had a good foundation from it, from growing up. Like I say, we came from a very poor family. It was rough living. Everything was an hand-me-down. I hardly had any shoes until I was about 13. It was a tough old time growing up. So it kind of set me in the right set, but I just wanted to be there. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't for money. Certainly wasn't for money, because the money in the army is
okay.
Terrible.
So do you think that kind of like the mental strength, do you think it's something that's grown, or do you think you start off with a wiring in a certain way that sets you on the path where you can develop into it?
I think you are born with a certain, strength of mind, and then you just develop it. It's just believing in yourself. And every situation I'm in, I'll say to myself, there's got to be a way around this or through this.
Yeah.
And there is. Well, there's proof I'm here. I'm fucking still here today talking. So, it's just never giving up. I just don't give up, and it's grown with me. I don't like to fail. I don't get all, I don't have a tizzy fit about failing. I'll learn from it. I'll go, okay, I'll that up. Shall I do that again? Or maybe that was such a bad mess, I shouldn't do it again. Or if it wasn't so bad, I'll go and do it again and hopefully get around it. So that's always been my mentality.
I'd say the thing that you've become a sort of household name for is the SAS. So what was the point where you've started thinking about joining the SAS? And can you give people who don't exactly know how it all works an indication of how tough it is to join the SAS? Yeah,
I can. So basically, you don't know a lot about it when you join the military. When you go into the army careers, no one talks about the SAS.
Right.
It's the SAS are what they call a tier 1 group, very, very small group of special forces. In UK, there's only two special forces. That's the SAS and the SBS.
Right.
Attached to that, we have surveillance teams, but that's all there's, SAS, SBS. In America, virtually everyone's special forces, but they have a tier 1 special forces, which is Delta and SEAL Team 6, which is our equivalents. So you don't know anything about that sort of stuff when you join the careers. You join the army, and all I want to be like everybody when you first join the army is be in the army, be in that unit. then as you sort of grow and go through experience and time, you learn about the SAS because you're always crossing over with them somewhere around the globe. You hear what they're doing. Friends of mine before me had gone to the SAS. Now, I didn't really decide that's where I wanted to go until about 7 years into my career.
Mm-hmm.
Good friends of mine had gone, and I knew they're doing great stuff. I'd bump into them once a year somewhere, having a beer. They never really said what they did, but I knew they were up to good stuff. And at the 7 year point, I'd been to Northern Ireland, operational tour of Cyprus. I'd been to Belize, so I'd seen some action, done some stuff, and I thought, where do I go next? I'll tell you what it's like. It's like, although I'm not saying parachute regiment's low down, if you're a footballer, you start off in a particular team. Mm-hmm. Whoever the top team is, that's where you want to be, right? The top of the Premier team. Well, that's the same as the Special Forces, the SAS. You want to be, and I will tell you this now, that's not just in UK. The SAS are, without a shadow of doubt, the best Special Forces in the world.
Really?
Fact. Yeah, most Special Forces we either fought against or fought alongside. Mm-hmm. And I know the Special Forces are like, wow, it's true. We are, shadow of doubt, we are the best in the world. Fact. So at some point, most people go, I want to do that. It is an horrendous course. We all know that. So at the 7 year point, I put in my papers because you have to volunteer from the parachute regiment to go and do SAS Selection. I then got told I've got to give another 2 years to the parachute regiment as an instructor down at the depot, which is where I went through, which was obviously a great privilege to do that. So that's what I did. And when I went down to the depot, which was perfect for me, you're fit as a fiddle. You're running 2 10-milers a day. You're in the gym every day. Your navigation skills are great. Your soldiering's great because you're training. You're training the up-and-coming new paratroopers. So that's what I did. So when I went down there, I knew I got 2 years of waiting time and prepare me to go on selection. So that's what I did. And then...
so that's 9 years of service?
Yeah.
So
the end of the 23 or 24. So
it was still quite young, isn't it?
Yeah, still young, yeah. That was the average age back then.
Right.
Joining the parachute regiment, or 25, whatever. You'll have to work the numbers out. But anyway, so... yeah, that was really the average age, sort of between 24 and 27 to join the parachute regiment, to join the SAS. So I decided then... well, I decided at the 7 year point, that's where I want to go. At the 9 year point, they'll let me go. And I joined the course, first course of 92, which was a winter course. There's 2 courses a year, winter and a summer course. I did the winter course, which is, a lot of people say it's harder. Some people say summer's hard, whatever. I would definitely say the winter one is harder, especially for navigation, because you can't see jack over the Black Mountains, the mist down there in the snow, whatever. So I did that course, and I turned up, and I think it was 283 of us turned up. And you're all stood on the square, and it was just like going back 9 years when I was a young kid. And we all do this. It's like, when you go for a particular job, you look at everybody else and go, wow, she looks smarter than me, got the kit. It's exactly what I was doing again. Now I'm stood at the end of the line of 283 people instead of 70 this time, going, he looks bigger, he looks fitter, they look better. I'm thinking...
283?
Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, what the am I doing?
Yeah.
Again, same thing. In fact, day 2, 80 of them are gone because you do a thing called the fan dance, which is that is the filter for anybody who really shouldn't.
What's the fan dance?
It's a 24 plus kilometre race, let's just say, over the top of the mountains,
right
down the other side, carrying about 60, 70 pounds. It's fast as shit. And anyway, so you do the fan dance, and by at the end of that, 80 people had gone. So the course is almost chopped in half already. And then again, day by day, week by week, the course gets down and down and down and down. And that lucky number again for me, at the end of selection, which is 6 months, there's 7 of us left. So that lucky number again, and it's horrendous. There's a number of phases to it. The first phase is over the mountains, and it's, like I say, day 2's, we lose 80 people, and then every day the marches for a month get longer, harder, at night as well, and you're on your own navigating and moving at I won't say what speed because I can't, at a frigging good speed, and there's no let up. It's relentless.
And when people are dropping out, is that because they're not successfully passing the tasks, or is that because they're just going, I can't carry on? Or
it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
A lot of it is mind. It comes down to mind. You talk yourself out of it, and you think, oh, I'm never going to make this now. Especially, you're allowed to get what they call a red, or you did back then. You could mess up on one. You had to finish every march.
Yeah.
But you could be like 10 seconds over on one march.
Got you.
20 seconds, maybe a minute. And they go, okay, that's a red. Next, if you do that again, that's it, you're done. And most people just, they just go over the time.
Were there any points where you were like you?
Yeah, I had a few dramas like everybody else, and I will say this, and it's true, is when you do selection, you've got to be on top of your game, you've got to be fit, you've got to be able to navigate, but there is an element of luck as well. You will get injured at some stage, that's a fact. I had a few issues, crossing the river one day in the mist, and it was horrendous. I slipped on a rock, bergen on top of my head, nearly drowned, dropped my weapon. I was in the water for about 10 minutes, freezing cold, minus 10 or whatever it is.
Oh my God.
Trying to find my weapon, which as I slipped, release, and with the current moving so fast, it had moved. So I'm going down the river, found it, and I think that day actually was my fastest time on that march because I just didn't stop running.
So if you turned up without the rifle...
Oh my God.
Is that you done?
I don't think I'd ever left the army. I'd never even gone back to the parachute.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrific.
Right.
I was literally going across the river. I'd only left the vehicle 20 metres and the mist was right down. And the option was, looked at my map, I either go 800 metres down there, there's a little bridge over, and then come back to go in the direction. I thought, I'm crossing that river. Bad mistake. Quarter of the way into the river, slippery rocks. It's about knee deep in the power of the river. Slipped, head went over, the bergen came on top of my head. I'm almost drowning. So in the panic of trying to stand up, I'll release the weapon, and now the current's taking it only 10 metres. But you're trying to find, and in my head, I'm thinking, fuck, I've got to go back to that truck and I've lost my weapon, which I didn't lose it. I dropped it, and then I got it. But as soon as I got onto the other bank, I was absolutely frozen. And I just got my bearing and just sprinted. Yeah. I think I got the fastest time that day on that, but I mean, I needed it.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get to the end and get into some dry clothes. It was horrific. Yeah, so there's an element to luck. And then I think on the last march you do over that month, my knee was almost the size of my waist. I was taking painkillers, and I just thought, I'm going to drag it with me. And I did. That was a time, if I was not going to do it, I couldn't do it.
What, your knee?
Yeah, my knee. I twisted my knee. It was all swollen up. For the last 2 marches, it was agony. And I just took painkillers and just went. And the last march was about 18 hours. It was horrific.
And do they see that you're in this pain, but they're like, well, it's up to him?
It's up to you to say, that's it, done.
Right.
Unless your fucking arm's hanging off or something, then obviously medically, you're not going on.
So that was the first phase?
Yeah, that's the first phase, which everybody thinks that's the phase. If you can get through the mountains, brilliant. Not at all. The real phase of selection is the jungle.
Right.
It's horrendous. Now, I'd been to the jungle 3 times before I'd gone on selection, because when I joined the parachute regiment, I went there, and I went to 2 other jungles since on training with the parachute regiment. So I went with a full sense of security, thinking, well, I'm good in the jungle. I love it now. I'm happy with it. And was I mistaken? Jesus Christ. And there's nothing special about the soldiering work you do in the jungle. It's just relentless of being watched all the time, under pressure, mental and physical pressure. What people don't realise is the jungle in Brunei, where you do it, it's like being in the Brecon Beacon Mountains, but with trees on top of it.
Right.
So under that canopy, you're going up and you're going down, and it's the horrendous heat all the time. It's 100% humidity. You're soaking wet, you're carrying a lot of weight, you're being scrutinised. The staff don't shout at you. They ask you to do things, and you make a mistake, and you're kind of looking at them thinking, you just see him taking notes.
Right.
And it plays on your mind, And then you've got the creatures, you're covered in leeches, you've got sores. It's horrendous, and you've got that now for 5 weeks.
I'm going to come back to the same question, but that desire to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that it's probably not an easy thing to articulate to someone like me who just wouldn't be able to. If I had to do it, maybe, but the knowledge that I could just go, do you know what, I'm just going to go back to what I was already good at before in the parachute regiment.
That's the easiest bit. That's why people fail. Because it's all about self-motivation. If expecting someone to grab you by the arm and go, no, don't give up, drag you forward, it doesn't happen. It's down to you on selection, because your work after that, when you're beyond the enemy lines, there's nobody dragging you forward. You're on your own. And that's who they're looking for, that person.
Okay, sure.
But for me, my desire was, I actually thrived on it. I did. I really loved it. And seeing people falling by the wayside just gave me more strength again, thinking, I can keep going. I can keep going for this, And trying to encourage people to do it with you in our little groups and that, you try, but you see their weaknesses, and it just gave me strength to keep going.
So when you're in those processes, are you all banded together going, we can do this together, or are you going, I've got to get through this, whatever you guys do?
No, I mean, the first phase is individual. It's over to you. All those navigation things and those carrying the weights over the mountain is individual. You're on your own. It's me versus everybody. When you get to the jungle, then you're into patrols. Then it's teamwork, looking after each other, but looking after yourself. You've still got to make sure you're 100%, then you can give 100% with the patrol. So it's that as well. So they're looking at everything. They're looking at you again, still as an individual, but more of what are you like under pressure working with anybody else, and that sort of stuff. Because
obviously they want you, but they want to know that you are somebody that can be a team player, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you're too set off on your own and not interested in anyone else,
it ain't gonna work.
See, it's a delicate balance then.
It is. And I know exactly how it works because I went back as a DS, directing stuff years later. So I knew exactly. At the time I was on selection, it's kind of all man for yourself, but teamwork when it needs to be teamwork. You know what I mean? You've got to know when to turn it on, turn it off. But then when you go back as a DS, I know exactly how it works. And what they're looking at is you. They're just looking at every single person as, who are you? We don't care how big you are, how fit you are, what you look like, what you've had in the past. Stripping you back to the raw you and putting you through physical, mental, emotional pressures like you've never been through to see how you cope. Can you think outside the box? Can you come up with a plan and an idea? Will you keep going? Will you try and find a solution or an excuse? As soon as you're looking for excuses,
done.
You're done.
Wow.
And then, you're no use to us.
Well, when you say there about the mental and the mental journey and the mental fortitude, because one of the really, I think, famous things about the SAS, which I don't think loads is known about it, but it's the third phase, which is, am I right in thinking, because that's the interrogation, and can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
the interrogation it represents, you got to remember what our work is. We do work in small numbers, you do work individually, you are very vulnerable, you ain't got all the support around you immediately, you're behind the enemy lines. You're in the enemy's back garden. That's where you're working. That's strategic level of working, and it's dangerous, scary shit. So you've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Now, the biggest vulnerability of being out there on your own, even in a small number, you're always outnumbered. If it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong big style. And the worst case you can end up in is being captured. Not being killed. Being killed, it's done, isn't it? It's over and done. But being captured. So what they do, there's a phase that sort of tries to prepare you for that, of how to survive under captivity, how to escape captivity and being evade. So that phase there, escape and evasion, is what you're talking about. So we'll always start with learning how to survive and live off the land. Worst case scenario, being on your own. How to navigate from the stars, from nature. All those raw skills that you need to know, because inevitably, when it does go tits up, you probably ain't going to have the life support you had with you. Your Bergen you may have lost. Or, you've had to run without it. Your equipment, so you're literally raw as it can be. So you get taught all those skills and how to survive and all that sort of stuff. And you've already done quite a bit of it through the phases, but then they really intensify it. And then at the end of it, you go through a phase of learning how to, if captured, how to represent yourself, to give yourself a chance of living, building a rapport with the enemy enough to keep yourself, one, to find a way of escaping, or two, hoping that the Jedis are going to come through the window at some stage and save you. So you're trying to prolong your life by building a rapport with these people. So that phase is where you get interrogated, stress positions, and it is horrific. It's horrible. However, everybody has a different experience. We're all different inside the mind. Again, for me, I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it. It was horrific, but I just knew they ain't going to kill me.
Sure, okay.
You ain't going to kill me.
But when you say it's horrific, what does that look like?
Oh, man. I mean, I won't say how many hours it is that you do because I'm not allowed to, but it's a hell of a lot more than what you see on any TV program.
Right.
It's
the stress position.
Yeah, you're in these stress positions. I mean, if I ask you now just to stand up straight, then bend your knees, half squat with your arms in the air.
Yeah.
After about 2 minutes, you'll be like this, trembling. So you're like that, and you're there for hours. And then, the you got a guard force that's got total control of your life. So that's really messing with your mind. You can't piss, you can't talk, you can't move. Somebody else has got control of your life. You just think about it, it's horrible. And then you're being put in these horrendous positions, like your back's killing you, think your back's going to snap, your shoulders are hanging off, your arms are hanging off, just holding your head up. It's just the worst of everything. You want to die. You're like, well, you're actually praying to be interrogated, because at least when you're getting dragged in and being screamed and shouted at, and mentally your arms and your back's in a better position for a bit. And then by the time they're screaming and shouting at you and dissecting you, and then you feel your mind starting to struggle, you're hoping to go back for a stress position. So you're bouncing between it, but it's a long process. And a lot of people do fail that. But everybody's different. Again, for me, I thought, you ain't going to rip my toenails out.
Yeah.
In reality, they will. In reality, it's going to be a lot worse than what I'm getting here. But that process of when you do it, I just keep saying to myself, this is just a game. But you start hallucinating. Bearing in mind, before you get captured anyway, you've been on the run for 2 weeks. You sleep deprivation, food deprivation, you're absolutely exhausted. And then you got somebody just ragging you around who's just got total, not even being able to go for a piss.
Yeah.
It's not like you see on the TV, you put your hand up and ask for a piss. That ain't going to happen.
No.
You have a slap around the head.
But then, like you say, it's what it's preparing you for is a reality that would be a lot worse if it was ever.
You're preparing yourself. You're getting an insight, an idea of what it's going to be like when you are working.
And you, so 7 of you passed.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know what that is as a percentage down from 283, was it? But yeah.
I mean, they all say that the regiment's the 1% of the 1% that want to do it, so.
And then once you get in to the SAS, how different was it in terms of workings from the parachute regiment?
I love that you asked me this, and I have told this a lot. If you've heard it, I'm sorry, but so when I joined the SAS, right, you have this expectation what's going to be like.
Yeah.
Of course, a couple of friends have gone before me, and I know what they're like. They were really fit, they were strong, they're big guys, doing great stuff. So when you get to the end of selection, in my head, I'm thinking, right, these are going to be super fit, super crazy people. If I said to you guys here now, I'm going to bring in 5 SAS guys, most people would be thinking, okay, big, fit, V-shape, that's kind of what you get. You just think that image. I don't know why everybody does it. Even I did it. So when I got to the end of selection, I got told, right, and there's no big celebration. There's no parade. There's nothing else. You're just there. The regiment sergeant major comes in, the commanding officer goes, okay, well done. You've all got to the end, did it. There's your berry, there's your belt. You're going to B squadron, you're going to D squadron, you're going to mountain troop, A squadron, whatever it is. And you're like, great. You don't care, actually. You don't want to pray. By the time you're just glad to be alive and be at the fucking end of it.
Yeah.
So off you go. And I go across the B squadron, which are the guys who did the embassy years ago. They're the first ones you ever heard about. Great squadron. They're all great squadrons, but B's better. B is better. So you go to B squadron. I go to B squadron, and they're all in their own little sort of areas. We call them interest rooms, where everybody hangs out, and that's where you sort of, you all meet. You have every morning, decide what we're doing, what training we're doing, what operations are going on, all that sort of stuff, and then that's how it is. So I get sent to B squadron, mountain troop. So I've got my berry, I've got my belt, feeling proud, Off I go, walk into B squadron interest room. And as I walk in, I'm like, am I in the wrong place here? I thought I walked into a council office in Hereford.
Right.
I'm like,
what do you mean?
There's like fat bloke over there, bald-headed bloke over there, skinny bloke over there, already got any teeth. I was like, this is the SAS. In my head, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? And there's these people misshaped, all sorts of, I'm thinking, what the have I just joined? So I'm a little bit bewildered, to be honest. I mean, I was quite fit, I was skinny, but because I'd just come through selection, but I thought, what is this? There are some really fit dudes there, of course. But there's all these different shape of people, and there's a big guy, and I think I can call him fat. Big fat guy making a cup of tea, and he sees me like looking in shock, and he turns around, he's making a cup of tea, and he looks over to me and goes, "You all right, son?" I went, "Yeah, I'm all right, you?" And he goes, "Yep. You want to go for a run?" I thought, the fat guy's asking me to go for a run. I thought, yeah, I can fucking run. Mate, we went out the gate, right? I saw the sole of his fucking boot for about 30 metres. I never seen him again. So I get back to the interest room, and he's already had a shower and and doing other, and I'm like, what the f*** is this? And then the penny dropped. This ain't about image. This is about what is there. And that's why I remember on selection, certain people passing, certain people not passing, and thinking, it really is about what these people have got in there. And then day 2 or 3, I haven't been there long, an operation comes in, a job. This bloke walks in with a rollie and he's smoking and rolling, flicking on, and I thought he was the guy going to clean the bins. It's a sergeant major. And he goes, right, issue, there's a operation going down, you know, we need to be in a place, save these people's lives, whatever it was. And he's gone, let's do it. And I thought it was a joke. I'm like looking around going, what the is going on? And then I watched these people put this plan together, all sat around, just talking, boom, boom, boom. And the next thing, you're off, bang, doing this operation. And it was like, wow.
And are they bringing you in at this point?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, at that, and the sergeant major's like, sorry, what's your name, son? And I went, Billy. He went, all right, welcome, Billy. How are we going to do this?
Right.
Asking me, and I'm like, I've just turned up. But that's how they are.
Yeah.
And they expect you to have something to say. There's no rank, there's no class. It's, there is rank. We all know who's in charge. They don't wear the rank. We know that guy's the main man, and he's this, and he's the patrol commander, and he's the troop staff.
And does it still have the hierarchy in the way you speak?
Yeah, it does. But
and...
to be honest, the operational side of it is run by the guys. The officers generally, the younger officers get involved because they're new as well. They're learning and they get fed into it. The older officers, the OCs and thereafter, they're the ones who do all the planning at the government, planning at the embassies around the globe, and that side of it. So all the groundwork really is done by the blokes. So from sergeant major down is where it really happens. And it was just, so I was like, so all of a sudden this whole new world opens up to me. I think for the first 8 months, other than 1 or 2 times when we did, I didn't even wear a uniform.
Right.
I was growing my hair and I was in places around the globe I'd never even heard of. I was learning a language I didn't even know existed. And then next thing, I'm speaking in this foreign country doing surveillance type stuff and whatever.
So once you joined the SAS, obviously you're in an amazing physical and mental position. But were there any points where you were like, I think I'm good? Like, were there any points where you felt close to death? Any that you can talk about? I know a lot of stuff you can.
Every day.
Right, sure. Is that how intense it is?
The way you train, you are, you're side by side rounds going past your ears in the dark, respirators on. You're throwing yourself out an aircraft at ridiculous heights, through the night with all this equipment into the ocean. You're constantly training, realistic, dangerous training. We do lose, unfortunately, people in training and people badly injured. And then operationally, freaking hell, from the Bosnia days to Afghan to Iraq, close to even being shot or blown up or both, regular, and like I say, it's funny because you just get on with it. You just kind of get on with it. And it's funny because when the blokes get together, you'll have a beer and they'll look at each other and go, how the did you walk out of that? And it'll be a certain operation where somebody's nearly blown your head off or had the drop on you, but somehow you got out of it. Or a particular bomb's gone off quite close to you, but it's all been impacted by a vehicle in front of you or whatever it is. So there's all these crazy stories that you get involved in. And it's at times when you get a bit, you forget about most of it, but a lot of it, I say you forget about most of it, you do. There'll always be something that'll trigger in my own mind of, I remember that time. And I'll give you one example, which I don't mind talking about, was we were in Bosnia and a real weird situation, actually. And it wasn't, well, I guess it was dangerous. It was dangerous, of course it was. And we had an interpreter with us. There's only 2 of us and we're on the ground. And we're trying to find our way through to the front line because out there it was a mess. You had Serbs, Croats and Muslims all fighting each other. Mess. And then in between all that was minefields everywhere. Mm-hmm. We were trying to figure out exactly who was fighting who, when the next thing was going to happen, all this sort of stuff. And there was 2 of us, and we had an interpreter with us. And the interpreter was a female, local. So she came with us. She was ballsy as hell, wonderful, wonderful girl, absolutely nails. We're obviously sneaking around. Nobody knows who we are, what we're doing. And we end up trying to find where this front line was, where the main fight was taking place this particular time. We end up in this frigging minefield, and we didn't know we're in it till we're halfway through it. So we're now lying amongst all these mines. So now we've got to either get out as best we can without getting blown up, or continue with the task to do what we want to do and then get out. So we decide we're going to continue with the task, and we get through. And we end up overlooking this village, and this village is getting smashed. And it's like a film set. Houses on fire, there's gunfights, people fighting in the street, there's people hanging out of cars, dead, there's bodies everywhere. And we're watching it from across this position, probably about 800 meters from it. The interpreter's with us. And she was wonderful. She was used to all this. It's her area, it's her country. And she had a little transistor radio. So me and my buddy are watching this, trying to make sure we don't get blown up, and watching, reporting what's going down and trying to do what we need to do. And she says, okay, I'll play the radio. And we're like, well, there's bombs and bullets going off everywhere. No one's going to know who we are. So I said, yeah, no problem. So she puts a little radio on, and she's behind us. And we're watching what's going on. And Hotel California comes on, the song. And I can hear this song, and you're kind of saying it in your head as you're watching this horrific thing happening in front of you. And then my mate nudges me. And I was like, what? He goes, behind you. So I look at our interpreter, and as I look over my shoulder, she's in floods of tears. And in my tiny, stupid head, I think, oh, that record obviously reminds her of her boyfriend or something. So I turned around to her and I said her name. I says, hey, if it's upsetting you, just turn it off. And she went, no, Billy, that's my house. I was like, I just wanted to roll over onto a mine and just end it. I thought, oh my God, God. It was just horrific. But trying to paint that scene, what I'm talking about, literally, it was her house getting smashed on fires, people screaming. And I was just, oh, fuck. And you're in those situations all the time. So we carry on doing what we're doing and quickly get out. But my point of saying that was, there's certain things that'll trigger certain things. And that song just reminded me of it. Or a smell will remind me of a certain situation in another country where so-and-so was killed, or that happened, or this happened.
There's things that that's sort of an amazing story. But it reinforces the stuff that you do, the stuff that all people in the military do. But then when you're saying the 1% of the 1%, there's things that you guys do that civilians just wouldn't be able to process how it feels to do it.
No.
How do you get to the point where you can you process these things indefinitely, or do they start leaving at all? When you're doing operations that will probably end other people's lives, that's something most humans never do. Most humans never take a life. And a lot of humans have a very limited exposure to death as well.
Yeah. People
like yourself will have a high amount of exposure. Is there a way of protecting yourself against that, or are you on a sort of countdown to it starting to having a...
No, I think we kind of alluded to it earlier. Every single person's different. Everybody's mind's different. We were talking about comments about... I sometimes can't get my head around how people give up on the interrogation so quick and all that stuff. But we're all different. So not tolerating, but dealing with what we do deal with, death, destruction, almost losing your own life or losing your mate's life, your mate losing his life next to you. You go through a massive process in your own mind of feeling guilty. Could I have done this? Should I have done that? Would that have helped? You blame yourself. You feel like you've let yourself down. And, so you go through all these emotions and whatever it might be and the situations, and you always ask yourself one thing is, could I have done a better job? The truth is, probably not. And the other thing is, it's already happened. Mm-hmm. So you've just got to sort of process it and move forward from it. Now, the way I've never had a mental problem. I'm just lucky or fortunate not to have had any issues with it. Like I say, I have my moments, I have my dark times, but I just sort of, I don't know, I just get on with it. Mm-hmm. Now, will I be the same in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? I don't know. There might be something that triggers something that I can't handle anymore. But right now, I think by talking a little bit about it, and especially talking with the people that we should be talking, peers who know what I'm talking about, because it's like anything as well, And while we're on this subject, especially with the military, I don't think we used to handle it very well. People that we'd had some bad situations at times, and you just come back and just be expected just to go home for a couple of days and then back into work and off you go again. There's no decompression and nothing. And I think that has stemmed to a lot of the problems that we're having today.
So you're in a kind of constant state of reflection and processing, like little and often, would you say?
Yeah, little and often, yeah.
Okay.
You know, have you got your remembrance days, certain, especially today, social media, there's always, every other day, somebody will put, you know, God bless someone, so I would rest in peace, I did it, and you think, oh, I remember that. But then there's the other sides of it that we've walked away from, where we've all walked away from. It's kind of funny, but there are times I've got, I've had chills on my back, and how the hell did that happen? How did I just walk away from that? Somebody your distance from me trying to blow my head off and missed with 6 bullets. How the did that happen?
Has that happened?
Yeah.
God.
And I'm like, how the did that happen? To this day, I still don't know. Stevie Wonder could have done it. You might want to.
So those ones, you just put those ones down to luck.
Yeah, you know, and it's
God.
well, looking, and like I've always said, it shouldn't have happened, and it didn't happen. You know, and blokes have said to me, "How the did you walk away from that?" Well, and when somebody puts about 6 bullets between your chin, literally down that line there, where your arms are, where your weapon was, and didn't kill me. You didn't get a second chance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's those sort of scenarios, you know, you relive them and you go, bonkers. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly...
Bomb dropping that side of the car. And the whole, you know, have you seen that Ali G thing where he stood against the wall and they open up on him and it goes all
yeah,
round?
Yeah.
And then he's obviously got his
like a Bugs
thing
Bunny
on it. Yeah. You know, we've had a situation like that. A mortar bomb has landed that side of the car and it's hit it and the whole thing is all around. Like, what the how the did that just happen?
God.
You're like, yeah, let's go.
So, I mean, but basically, Billy, you're someone that, like, you've got so many aspects to your life that it's like I think we need 4 hours, 5 hours. I know that one of the things that we want to get onto is the celebrity bodyguard stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess, because that's a fascinating thing, because I guess that's not something a lot of people do, is it, when they leave the military?
A lot of military do get into security. Not a lot of them do it at that level.
Yeah.
You know, I was just fortunate to be in a place to be asked to go and do it at that level right from the moment I stepped out of the army, to be honest.
But Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, because they're like two of the biggest apples on the tree in terms of...
Well, there were in the day when I did that job, there were. I mean, prior to leaving the military, you know, I always say I did 27 years. I did more than 27 years because I stayed on a thing called, the reserves. I did 5 years of reserves. Okay. I didn't really do anything at all, so I never really count that anyway.
Okay.
But in all that time, when I left, I had to find a job. And the hardest thing about that was, well, firstly, finding a job. But secondly, you know, I'd spent all my life denying who I was and where I was, because that's what we do.
Yeah,
we have to. You know, we're not even on any registers anywhere or anything. So that's our lifestyle. And then all of a sudden, that career's over, you got to go to work. So what do? And then I get offered a job security, and it was for Brad and Angelina, who were at the time were the biggest A-list on the planet. And it's good pay. I needed work. And I thought, well, I'm going to take the job. So I took the job. And it was really awkward. Because all of a sudden, hell, you know, I've gone from nobody knows who the hell I am to all these, like this, cameras everywhere. And people, who's this new bloke? Who's that? You know, it was really uncomfortable. I was kind of 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out the water. Am I doing it? Am I not doing it? And it was just... It was awful. Being shot at with a camera as opposed to a gun was worse than ever.
Is it not hard to come out of something like the military, and then if you're bodyguarding people like that, is it not hard to even have a conversation with people like that? Because if they're going to you and going, oh, can you get the vegan food in? And are you not going, do you get what I mean? Like,
no, I understand exactly. And that's a good point, Ben, actually, because I was going to allude to that. So firstly stepping out into this new world, cameras everywhere, in the limelight, on every magazine that's going, and then down to, can you make sure that my stuff's at the dry cleaners by and the driver's got the, you're like, what the f*** talking about? Yeah. But you soon adapt. You soon go, you know what? And I started to chuckle about that. Right, okay. Yeah, can you make sure the sushi's got California rolls? And I'm like, do it yourself. You know, but you get used to it and you start to enjoy it. It's about, to be fair, all the skill sets that I had in the military, you've got all the skill sets you need outside. You've just got to tone it down and adapt it to what it really is. It's finding out what it really is. You know, and as soon as I realised, once I'd stopped worrying about me being caught on camera and me doing this, I could really concentrate on the job. And what is the job? The job really is protecting an image. That's all you're really doing. 90% of it. Of course, you've got to be physically there. You've got to be aware of lunatics who might want to have a go at them or want to, kidnap or whatever. So you've got to have that in your mind. Whereas the life before, it was all about that. That was the priority. Death, kidnapping, killing, whatever it is. Now it's making sure they're not stood in front of a camera with coffee down their white shirt or say the wrong thing when they're drunk. So it was adapting that to babysitting, really. It's like glorified babysitting.
Is the threat level there? Is it present?
There's always a threat level there. Everybody wants 15 minutes of fame, don't they? I mean, look at John Lennon.
Yeah.
Somebody will have a pop whenever, I remember Tom Cruise, who I'd looked after Tom a while back, and it was after I looked after him, thank God. He was walking the red carpet and somebody pulled a pistol on him. It was a water pistol.
Right.
Yeah, it was a water pistol that time, but that could have been a pistol, and fired water into his face. That could have been acid.
So
so there is a threat there. They're not around every corner, but you have to have that in your mind.
You can't get complacent with it.
Yeah, don't get complacent. But yeah, there is a threat there.
And you did quite a few of the big names.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did a lot of moonlighting. If I'm honest, I looked after Hulk Hogan, which I fucking loved.
Hulk Hogan. Wow.
I looked after Hulk Hogan for a little
character,
just for 2 nights, I think it was, but it was funny.
Yeah.
And the thing about that was, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He's like twice the size of me, and in his head, he's thinking, "This bloke's either hard as nails or mad."
Right. Okay.
He doesn't know, and I'm playing it cool. Like, "Hey, mate, want to test it?" And he's like, "No." So it's all about confidence.
Sure.
So I looked after him. I looked after Kate Moss briefly. I looked after Russell Crowe quite a bit, actually. Russell's awesome. Tom Cruise. I looked after not Matt Damon, Damon Albarn from Blur, One Night and his wife. Sir Michael Caine, fantastic. Actually, he was the last guy I looked after. Sir Michael, he was brilliant. Brad and Angie, yeah.
It's probably the most famous kind of like celebrity bodyguard film of recent years. It was like the Taken film. It starts off and he's looking.
Liam Neeson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it important to build a rapport with the people? Or
yeah. It's. People said to me, you've got to see this new Bodyguard program. I said, it's the most realistic. I watched about 10 minutes when it's a lot of shit.
Right.
And it's just not real because, of course, you've got to have a rapport with them. You can't be all robotic with the curly piece hanging out your ear, stood there like a robot. You need to know. I need to know exactly everything from my clients' underwear sizes to their medical records to what they like, what they don't like. Because if they're having a pissed off day, you're having a pissed off day. And you've got to be able to speak with each other and be flexible. And I've got to be able to read your moods. You can't do that if you're walking around like a frigging robot and too busy looking like sculptured polystyrene, big arms and all the rest of it. But you got to be on a level where you can speak with them. And you've got to be able to speak bluntly with them as well. Every one of my clients, if I said, we ain't doing that. We ain't
really?
doing it. Yeah.
Oh, so you have to be able to say, you're right, okay.
Yeah, of course, because otherwise you put yourself in a position that for instance, as an example, if my clients want to go to a particular venue, there's a massive overzealous crowd, which they do get overzealous, i.e. the security ain't in place. There's normally security at these venues. If it ain't in place and it's going to spill over and go wild, I ain't going to control it. I can't control 30, 40, 50 people. And I'll be like, that ain't happening. And the client would go, well, we really need to go. I go, well, you ain't going.
Right.
We'll find an alternative.
So
I'll try and find an alternative. Right. Yeah. And that was the beauty with when I was doing body. We had a great mutual understanding. I'm here to provide security. That's what you pay me for. We're not best mates. I am your friend. I am your mate, but I've got a job to do. I'll only get it wrong once. Then I'll look a right prat, and you're probably going to end up in a bad position. So you got to allow me and listen to me when I say what I want to do. You tell me what you want to do, and I'll find an alternative if I can. If I can't, that's the way it is. Security comes first. And that was me with every single one of them. As I'm speaking to you is how I spoke to all my clients, And not to be disrespectful, I'm doing a job. I ain't into this. You're a celebrity, so what? You're the person who's paying my wages. And if I ain't working with you, I don't get a wage. It's as simple as that.
And did you develop any friendships, or is it more?
No, I had great friendships with all of them. I have a drink with them, have a laugh, do stupid message you around and all that sort of stuff. But then there's a line.
Yeah, of course.
When I'm working, you know? And and even in the time off, if we'd be in their house having a couple of beers, having a laugh and a joke, I'd still make sure that everything outside was secure and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You can never let your hair down. And the thing about that bodyguarding world is people think it's glamorous. Yeah, I got paid well. Yeah, I've travelled a lot. Yeah, I met these cool people if that's what you're into. But I was working 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
When they go to bed, I've got 2 hours work to be done.
Yeah.
You couldn't trust the drivers. Couldn't trust anybody else.
Why not?
'Cause everybody just wants to steal your job. Because the drivers all of a sudden turn into Sterling Moss stroke evasive driving instructors whenever they get in the car because they're trying to impress.
Right. Okay.
Or they turn up stinking of beer or something else. Or they're too busy. Instead of driving, my clients in the back listen, they're talking and they're like that.
Right. Okay.
You're like, where are you going? So
Right.
I couldn't trust them. And I used to catch them out all the time. A lot of the drivers would say, okay, tomorrow morning, we're going to go down to Smith's, make sure you're there on time, do a recce, yeah, no problem. Knowing full well I ain't going there. Jump in the car, go to turn right at the gate that morning, and I go, no, turn left. But you say we're going to Smith's. No, we're not. We're going to Daly's. They'd be like, and I'll go, send the next driver, go down to Smith's, tell me what you see. Drive down to Smith's. Oh, all the paparazzi are there. Oh, really?
Oh, really?
You couldn't trust
Yeah.
anybody, mate. So you had to constantly having to be one step ahead of the curve just to get the day's job done, Because if they turn up as where they're trying to keep a low profile and have a easy life, and then there's paparazzi, they can't be who they really are. They've got to have this image, like we all have an image, like we do for Instagram or wherever it is. You've got to be this person. They can't be themselves, and it ruins the day. Then it ruins your day. So you've just got to, stay on top of all that.
And how does it go from that? So am I right in thinking you got an MBE?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so because I think that you, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll edit it out, but I think that you were the most decorated officer on the TV show.
Yeah, they love their titles, and they put up the most decorated SAS ICE ranking on TV. I'm not the most decorated.
No,
person
from the
SAS.
show. From the
show, yeah. My experience, if you put all the other guys together, I've got more experience than every single one of them put together.
Right.
Not to say they're not good. They're good at what they do, but I've just had the longest serving time. I was fortunate. I think I've been in every conflict other than the Falklands.
So how does it come about that you get a call asking if you want to be in a TV show about the SAS?
It's funny you should ask that as well, but I got asked to be on it. When I started working with the brand Angelina, I got asked all the time.
Right. For TV work?
Yeah, for TV. Will you do this? Will you do that? And I was never interested in it. I was busy anyway. I couldn't have done it. Then as I was starting to step off the gas with that, I got asked a real funny phone call through a friend of mine saying, these guys running a TV show want to speak to you. So I said, I'll speak to them. I said, look, we got your name. We're running this program where we're going to take the 8 fittest people or 9 fittest people from the UK to the jungle. We rang the jungle school in Belize, and the guy in charge there was a guy I took through his course.
Right.
And he spoke to him and said, look, we're looking for a jungle instructor. He goes, who's really good in the jungle, but he's horrible. He goes, I know, just bloke. This is how he sells it to me. So he goes, yeah, I know, real horrible but he's really good in the jungle. So it made me laugh. And I goes, hang on, mate. Back and forth, and they wanted to run this program. And I says, hang on, what do you want to do? And they said, we want to do this, put them through the paces. And I said, who will? They said, fittest people in the UK. I said, stop. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter who they are. They go to the jungle, they're going to die. It ain't going to work. No, you don't understand. I mean, no, you don't understand. Back and forth. Anyway, I did this program called Unbreakable. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
It was on, I think it was Channel 5, Ricochet was the company that did it.
Okay.
Great producers, great people, and the students were fantastic, but they'd never been to the jungle. The jungle's deadly. Doesn't matter, I don't care how fit or strong you think you are. So anyway, these people would turn up at the jungle, we're going to do this course, and I'd already warned them. 40 minutes into it, I've broke all of them. I'm like, what the One bloke's nearly dying, he's flipping out. Right. And again, not his fault, these are great people, he's just...
They underestimated what it took.
Yeah, so I've now almost got the producer around the neck. I'm going, told you this. So for the next 3 days, I'm teaching them, and then we do 30 minutes of running them ragged so we make this program. And he put me off. I went, I ain't doing this no more. I don't fucking listen. And then I left it for years and years and years. And then SAS Who Dares Wins came around, and one of the guys on the original, Colin McLaughlin, with Anne and Foxy and Ollie, rings me up and says, mate, we're putting this program together. SAS, will you come on it? And as soon as I said SAS, I said no. Because there'd been cheesy little things about it. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. Not interested, mate. Anyway, that went out. At the same time, I again asked to do a program called SF Are You Tough Enough? And then in between all that, SAS 1 going out and 2 about to do Series 2, I get the call from a producer from Minnow, and he hounded me saying, will you come on the show? And I went, no. And he goes, I says, look, where are you? He says, I'm in London. I said, mate, I ain't coming to London anyway. He says, I'll come to Hereford. And he literally, off the phone, jumped in his car, drove to Hereford. So we sat and talked about the show, what it's all about. And I said, okay. That's when I joined it. And it was a bit uncomfortable to start with. The lads there were free SBS guys. I was the only SAS guy at the time. Although I had a lot more experience. I didn't want to be anything more than just in the background anyway. DS, I wasn't any threat to Ant or anybody else. And it was all right. I enjoyed, doing bits and pieces, and took a little while to get used to what it was really all about. And the mirror rooms, when we were doing that, when we did the interviews, I didn't really like it. I didn't really understand it. But now I love it. It's what it's all about. So it took a while to get used to it, but then I stayed with it. And then moving on to where we are now, I'm now the chief instructor on it.
And do you enjoy the show? Do you like doing it?
I love it, mate. Yeah, I love it. It gives me a chance to keep fit.
Yeah.
It's like being back in the military. There's no script. There's no rehearsals. There's no retakes.
Right.
Basically, we run it as a course.
Right.
The celebrity thing is brilliant because, every celebrity's got a fan base. People worship these people wherever they come from, wherever they're doing, whether they're soccer players or TV people or whatever it is. And the fact that, again, we don't know what's going to come out of their mouth. When they come out with something, whether they've been abused or this, to us you're like, wow, okay, I weren't expecting that. And they walk out of that room 6 inches taller because they've got it off the shoulders. We give them sort of, okay, done. No sympathy, let's move forward. And as soon as you tell them that, they're like, whoa, I don't have to be a victim anymore, I can move forward. But the beauty of that is there'll be 40, 50,000 people that have watched that show that night. I'll tell you now, start messaging, going, if he can talk about it, she can talk about it, I can.
100%.
And we get amazing messages, honestly, unbelievable. And I love that feeling of knowing it's not just about thrashing people. It's not a mud run. It's not a Spartan challenge. And it's not rehearsed. So we run it as a course. And as we would, anybody in the military, you've stepped into our world, you've volunteered. Yeah, you're going to get screamed at. And the only reason you scream and shout at them, which is different to the real SAS, we've only got 10 days to put them through everything. So you've got to get it going and motivate them and put them under pressure.
Are there any celebrities that have been through the course that you think could have potentially done the real course?
No. Don't be so ridiculous.
Yeah,
there is nobody on any of it.
I thought that might be.
No. These are 10, 14 days.
Yeah.
The SAS Selection is freaking 6 months.
No, sure, but
there's that side of it. And also, not to be disrespectful to anybody, you got to be in the military to go into the SAS, the reality of it, So what they do is amazing. And these people that come on this course for the show, they're doing 18 hours a day. You only get 40 minutes of it on the show. They get put through their paces. So it's a big, it's probably the biggest test they'll do in their life. People look and go, well, you've got, Fatima Whitbread, 60 years old. You've got all these athletes. How is she going to compete with them? Well, she isn't. Fatima Whitbread is competing with Fatima Whitbread.
Yeah.
The sprinter will look at every single one of you and go, when your 100% ain't going to be the same as his or her 100%. So every day we have these prayers and we push you. We want Fatima to run 2 kilometres with Bergen. I want him to run 5 kilometres and a bit faster because that's when he's being tested and you're being tested. Think, because no matter what situation you are in, there's a way out. I wouldn't say a way out, there's an option. And I've been in some places where you go, mate, we're dead. We ain't getting out of this. And then when you go, I've got to do something, I'm going to find an option. You find an option. It's never a good one, but with perseverance and a little bit of hard work around it, you get through it. And that's what you're looking for in every single person. And that's what you get out of these people.
When you look back, you started off as someone who had it could have been that boxing was what you were going to do. And then it was parachute regiment.
Yeah.
Then it was SAS, then celebrity bodyguarding, and then TV work. Yeah. They're kind of routes that a lot of people would have as their one thing that they went into. When you look back at that kind of very varied life, what do you think it's taught you overall? Like, what's something you've learned across all your experiences? Honestly,
God, mate, to be grateful and to realise how fortunate we are. And also to realise there's always somebody worse off than you. 70% of what I do today is charity, giving back. I'm not saying this to go, great. That's what I do. Putting kids through school. Because I've been lucky and I've been privileged to be where I am. I've put myself in some of the most craziest, hardest positions you can imagine. And some of, not through my fault. And I've got through it. And I like to give that back to somebody. The people who give me an opportunity in life, like I said, the old man who I stole from, very influential man. The guy who ran the cadets, another very influential man in my life. Benny, the guy who got killed, just put him on the straight and narrow. My corporal in depot. All these people that gave me opportunities. I want to, all that experience, that knowledge, give it to somebody else. Pass it on to other people. The younger generation, basically.
Well, look, Billy, it's been an inspirational and fascinating chat. I mean, and the other thing that I always find interesting about people like yourself is that you always start off going like, school wasn't for me, I never got on with school. But then you're able to talk so well about all the different complicated like situations. And I sometimes wonder with people like you whether you just were at the wrong school.
That's possible, mate, but I know I was a little is it?
Thanks so much for coming in, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
I enjoyed it.
Cheers, Billy.
Cheers, mate.
I say it to this day now, I felt I've killed someone. I've killed someone. I've shot someone. It was tap on the shoulder going, a good job, mate. Good job. And it took me a good week to get my mind in gear thinking, that's my job. That's the job of a sniper.